Hey there guys, today's going to be a little bit more of an informational video for you all, and it's going to be revolving around my main class. That will probably always be my main, Soulfist. If you want a more introductory and basic video, and explanation of the class and some more minor, just generalized things, go check out the other video I made, which is the Should You Make Soulfist as an Alt video. I'll post it in the description, maybe link it in the video if I remember. But in any case, this is going to be more of a in-depth look at the engravings over the class, sort of the pros, the cons, what the class does well, what the class doesn't do well. Going to be focused on the robust spirit engraving, mainly, as that is the engraving that I have dumped all of my energy and effort into learning and being proficient at. And then obviously we'll go in depth over rotations, stuff like that. But before we get super into the video, if you guys could subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 500 before the end of the year. We're doing amazingly, and you guys have shown such a huge amount of support. I can't thank you enough. So let's get on with the video. So, Soulfist. It is a female martial artist that centers around doing burst damage. And why did I initially pick this class, even though it's absolutely dreadful until you get to very later on in the game? Well, it's obviously that meme chart that people were linking around on the Reddit and socials and stuff, where Soulfist was a Super Saiyan, you know, Super Saiyajin. And everybody likes the Spirit Bomb, obviously. But what you want to do is, you know, there's more to the class than that, right? Believe it or not, I know. Early on in the game, before you get to relic accessories and get a good amount of spec, yeah, your ult is pretty much your entire identity. But after that, I mean, your other skills do quite a bit as well. And it's not just the Spirit Bomb, right? Like, believe it or not. So before relic gear, the class is going to feel very not great. If you played it at all, I would recommend just being energy overflow until you get to relic, personally. I didn't do that because I'm an idiot. I would just go energy overflow until you get to relic gear, personally, straight up, 100%, no questions asked. It's still not going to feel great, but it will feel better than this. And why is that? Well, it's a specialization class, and if you'll notice a trend with this game, most spec classes only come online later, like really start to shine and feel good, because most spec classes are, as the stat may imply, they're specialized. Whether it be burst, or like transform, or something like Deathblade and Surge, you know what I mean? Let's go over what makes the class so good is this skill right here, Energy Release. Energy Release combined with the hype, this is basically the identity of a Soulfist outside of Spirit Bomb. This is what makes us tick, our bread and butter. And one of the most important things to have, which you'll notice I don't have, ignore that, let's just fix that. I do have it prepared for the tripod update. I have level 5 saved. I don't need it, even though I probably should just like pass a level 3 or something, but I don't need it. I'm lazy. Okay, we all have our lazy aspects. That's mine. I don't need it, so I'll just wait. But quick prep is an absolutely mandatory tripod. You need quick prep, or you need a lot of spec and a level 10 cooldown gem, which is what I have. And I got that quite early on, so I just haven't needed to get the tripod, so again, lazy, haven't done it, whatever. Just get level 5 quick prep on energy release, and you will save yourself a massive amount of headache. This, mixed with hype, you want to fit all your skills into the energy release window, which lasts for 6 seconds. You can see there, Y, ready attack, which is another very important tripod, because it scales the amount of damage it gives you. 6 seconds. During that 6-second window, you want to drop all of your other skills that do big damage. Now, Obviously, with legendary gear, you're not going to be able to do this. It's going to feel very sluggish, very bad. You're not going to be able to do 2 rotations in a window. It's just not going to feel good. If you insist on playing Robust Spirit, got them mixed up. Robust Spirit, then you can. It's just not going to feel good. That's the biggest thing you need to keep in mind. You can play it if that's what you want to play, and it's what I did. That's just mostly because I'm stubborn rather than wanting to play it. Now I quite enjoy it, but back then, like as I said before in the past, it made me almost want to quit the game. In any case, what you are aiming to be able to do is this, right? So, basic rotation, you go into hype, drop an energy release. Oh, actually, let me do that, because I was testing some stuff in here earlier. So let's do a real rotation now so you can see what I mean. Go into hype, drop an energy release, and then you just start dumping your skills. And then while everything's on cooldown, you just kind of pretend like you do damage. Honestly, autos basically do nothing. They're like irrelevant. Then you do another energy release, Shadow Breaker, Force Orb. And see, I can just not quite finish all of my skills in 2 rotations, and that's assuming I have 100% uptime. So, obviously I still have some room to grow. I am missing Quick Prep Tripod on Crippling Barrier still, which I have set up. And obviously I can get more cooldown on this, which helps. But basically, that's the gist of the later game playstyle. You want to be able to do 2 energy releases in 1 cycle of hype. And why is that? Well, obviously more damage, but also going from 1 to 2 per hype rotation is... I mean, it's more than doubling your damage because of the cooldown period, you see? If you can only do 1 versus 2, you're over doubling your damage. Because outside of hype, you are not really casting any abilities. You're using Bolting Crash and maybe a Force Orb, maybe a Shadow Breaker if you choose to run it, just to keep adrenaline stacks up. But realistically, you're not going to be casting any spells, using any skills, and our autos, they hit like a worm, like just floppy noodle. Literally no damage. So, engravings. Let's go over some engravings. This is pretty solid setup. I haven't ran the numbers myself, but I am safe to assume that this is most likely the best 5x3 setup you can get. Again, I haven't ran the numbers, so I'm not going to claim that it is the best, but to my knowledge, this is the best performing setup that I've been able to manage. I have tested extensively Adrenaline versus Precise Dagger. Precise Dagger is just not good. Ever. Adrenaline is... I guess it uses more brain power to use, sure. But Adrenaline is just better in every aspect. Like, I feel like even if you aren't playing around trying to keep up Adrenaline stacks, it surely is just better. A flat minus 12% damage with Precise Dagger is just so big. And the DPS difference when I did my multiple tests, it was just... it was like a good 6 or 7%. Obviously, that doesn't account for the variance, which happens, but it was a very large amount. So, TLDR on this is, you definitely want Adrenaline. If you insist on playing Robust Spirit, what would I recommend for a 3x3? Well, Robust Spirit is the first engraving you should absolutely always take. You need it. It's the whole point of the class. It gives you damage and makes you immediately go hype 3. So, you want to run max Robust Spirit. Then, to the shock of absolutely nobody, you want to be running Grudge, because Grudge is Grudge, and Grudge is Grudge. Grudge, 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 Grudge. Grudge is best. Robust Spirit, Grudge, that's your 2x3. You add another, you add Adrenaline or Precise Dagger if you want to. I don't recommend it, but you're free to do whatever your little heart desires, my kittens. So that's going to be your 3x3, Robust Spirit, Grudge, Adrenaline. Then for the next engraving, I would add Keen Blunt. So 3x4 is going to add Keen Blunt. Robust Spirit, Grudge, Adrenaline, Keen Blunt. And then finally you add Cursed Dole. Cursed Doll does what it says on the tin, gives you some attack power, makes your pots heal a little bit less. There you go. The biggest thing to remember here is... how do I put this lightly? You are not going to crit all the time. Especially not in our version. We are missing quite a bit of things that give us crit, such as Bracer, such as, I mean, fully upgraded relic sets, because on Korea they have level 3 sets, we just got level 2, and we can't even max it out yet. I'm working on the weapon still, and then I'll have the 6 set level 2 bonus, but that'll give us a bit more crit. Basically what I'm trying to say is, you are not going to crit all the time on your Spirit Bomb, and there's no way around it. It's just, it is what it is. And then, that is also not even taking into account the fact that enemies, pretty much the second you press this ability, they will dash 300 million years away from wherever you clicked on. And, I mean, it's just the reality of playing this class. It happens, you know what I mean? There's just... It sucks and it's annoying, but you have to deal with it if you want to play this class. And I don't know a good way to put it. It's just such a burst-oriented class, and if you hit everything and all your big abilities crit, it feels great. You feel unstoppable. If it doesn't, you feel broken and sad, depressed, noodly. You're a limp little noodle man. If you like noodles, though, leave a like. If you don't like noodles, still leave a like. Why not? For the next thing that I want to talk about is... I guess I'll quickly go over the elephant in the room here. And that's the fact that I'm sure you've noticed I'm using Shadow Breaker instead of Energy Blast. And I'm just going to level with you. Energy Blast does more damage. 100%. Nobody is disputing that. I don't think anybody would try to dispute that. Energy Blast is a stronger ability. Why do I use Shadow Breaker over Energy Blast? Very simple. I don't like it. I know that's not a great reason, but I've tried it. It does not feel good to me. It does not feel natural, smooth, whatever you want to call it. The thing that people immediately say for Shadow Breaker is that in Trixion it does very incomparable damage to Energy Blast. But the reality is, Shadow Breaker, while it also is a weak point level 2 ability, which is actually quite important, especially in our current endgame with Conglanium, stuff like that, Bolton, etc., can be very useful. It also has this tripod right here, which is essentially an execute. It does more damage to enemies under 50% health. This is not showing in Trixion. This makes Shadow Breaker, the last hit of Shadow Breaker hits for a lot of damage. It is very hard to test this in like an actual testing environment, since, I mean, this is the best we got, and there's not much I can really do here. It's not like I can set the health points of the boss. I mean, I can do the damage, but I can't, you know what I mean? Like, I can't set the health of the boss. I wish I could, but I cannot. So the only thing that I have is anecdotal evidence through real-world gameplay, and what I will say is that similarly geared Soulfist that run Energy Blast over Shadow Breaker, I generally don't have any issues either beating them in MVPing or just competing at the very least. So in my heart of hearts, I want to say Shadowbreaker is not that big of a DPS loss. I am not arguing that it is, because it is. Energy Blast is insanely strong after the buff. This skill is ridiculous. But I would have less fun playing the class if I used it, so that is why I use Shadowbreaker. And that is why Shadowbreaker is not as bad as people think because of this tripod. Again, Energy Blast stronger, Shadowbreaker preference. And that is another thing that I want to talk about. There are a couple preferential choices you can make here. You can... I mean, you could even run Energy Blast over Crippling Barrier. I just like Crippling Barrier because it's an easy tap. The rotation would become much more tighter if you did drop it. You'd probably have to cut out Force Orb on the second cycle, but you'll figure it out if you play around. But you can cut out Crippling Barrier. I mean, you could even switch out Bolting Crash for, like, Pulverizing Palm and then dropping Barrier for Lightning Palm, which will then be your counter. Like, you have options here. Just... what I would say is the core of this build is Energy Release. You cannot replace this. Merciless Pummel, you cannot replace. I would say you probably cannot replace Bolting Crash. Because to replace Bolting Crash, you then need to use Pulverizing Palm. I guess you don't have to use Pulverizing Palm. But I don't know. Bolting Crash is weird because it's your synergy skill. Right? I don't know. I'm gonna make my mind up. You can't replace Bolting Crash. But the rest of the skills are pretty flexible and you can pick and choose what you want to use, really. The only skills that I really would stay away from is Palm Burst and Magnetic Palm. I haven't done too much testing with Venomous Fist, but I don't think that's a fire ability either. Energy Bullet surprisingly has some uses, as does Deadly Finger. Anyways, this is getting way too deep into something that probably the 99% of you don't care about, so let's move on. But the TLDR is options for skills. Try things out for yourself, test them. You'd be surprised at how similar some of these things are. Crits are important, as we've learned. We don't have much crit. That's a big con of this class. Another big con, Spirit Bomb. If it misses, it misses. You feel sad. You sat here for 5 seconds looking like an idiot. Very sad. The pros are obviously good burst. You can cancel hype early with the X button. So what you can do is, during periods of downtime in raids or Guardian raids, you just let hype recharge. Any downtime you could be recharging, and then you get more damage because you'll have higher hype uptime during times where you can actually hit the boss. It's really just something that comes with experience and playing the class and playing the game. I can't really help you too much there. And then I guess for the last couple things, I'll go over the rune setup as well, even though I would just... basically what I did is I copied the max roll stuff, and then I just kind of pick and choose things that I want for convenience, like Conviction Judgment. I know a lot of people don't... a lot of people have asked me why I run Conviction Judgment, and there's a very simple answer to this question. Force Orb, that procs Conviction. Celestial Palm, didn't proc Judgment there, but it's likely to proc it. And procs Judgment. And then, what do I do with that? Well, I get 15% cooldown on World Decimation. That's basically the only reason I use it. It's just a preference thing again, like I was saying about skill choices. A lot of things in this game are just preference. So, I think the last thing that I would get into for the end of this video is the rotations and how they work. Your basic rotation for Adrenaline at a beginning of a fight, you're just gonna Flash Step 3 times, you're gonna Bolting Crash, you're gonna activate Hype, you're gonna Energy Release. that is 6 adrenaline stacks, and then you can enter into the damage rotation. The general damage rotation that I try to do is Merciless Pummel, Shadow Breaker, Force Orb, Palm, Barrier. If I know I'm not going to be able to fit the end tick of Barrier, you know, the little pop explosion, that, if I'm not going to be able to fit that into the energy release window of the last hype cycle, or the last energy release cycle on the hype, I will use Barrier first over Palm, because Barrier just does more damage. And I'll kind of show you that in action here, like what I mean. You can also activate hype before you use Bolting Crash, and then you just want to use Bolting Crash to keep up adrenaline in between hype. You can even do that, and then you want to use Energy Release as soon as it's up. See there, I should have used... It's because I Bolting Crash, but I should have used Barrier before Orb. And kind of show you again, this time I'll do it the way I initially said, which is Bolting, then Hype, then Energy Release. Merciless Pummel, Shadow Breaker, Force Orb, Palm, Barrier. And then I just kind of chill, because you don't do any damage, basically. I'll Force Orb to keep adrenaline up. I'll Crash, then I'll Release. Merciless, Breaker, Barrier, Orb, Palm. That's the rotation. That is your burst cycle. What does the burst cycle look like when you want to add World Decimation in the mix? It's something like this. Same deal to build up your hype stacks like this, but then you just do that. Like, it's no different. Instead of Merciless Pummel, you use your Awakening. And then from here, I'll do something like this. I won't use Merciless Pummel until Energy Release is back up, but I will use everything else. If I had the proper quick prep tripod on my Barrier, it would be back up, but I don't because I'm lazy, but you get the idea. That's kind of the rotation I would use if I was opening with a World Decimation. I'll do it again in case you want to see. Drop a World Decimation. Then I'd Orb, Breaker, Barrier. And I just kind of wait. Bolting Crash. Orb again. Release. Pummel. Breaker. Palm, Barrier, Bolting Crash, and then I'd wait on Orb to refresh adrenaline. You can kind of see, you don't really want to use any of your big damaging skills outside of the window. And then, because I'm sure you're all curious on like a 2-minute parse, I'll run a 2-minute parse. I will do it with Awakening. If you want to see without Awakening, well, maybe I can do that too, but it'll make the video even longer. But we'll see. So, let's get into this. Oh, sorry, I was just taking a sip of water. So let's get into it. I'll have that to start with. There's no way to remove that, huh? Oh well. Slightly impure test, but you'll get a general idea of what the damage was looking like. Alrighty. So this is going to be with Awakening. Let's see what I can do here. You have to keep in mind the variance on this stuff is going to be very high because of crits, especially on World Decimation, but that's Trixian for you. You can't really take Trixian too seriously, because if you do, you start losing your mind. You can kind of see adrenaline can be tight, and sometimes it can just straight up drop if you mismanage your skills like I did there. But I am also talking, which I usually don't do to this level. But you'll notice I just kind of tap my mouse button to auto, so at least it looks like I'm doing something. I mean, I guess it's a little bit of damage, I don't know. It literally doesn't matter. But you can see the rotation's nothing crazy. And you can easily see how more spec would make this feel better, because it's still pretty tight for me. Granted, I don't have all the things that I should have. I just have enough things to make it work, kind of. I'm just waiting for the tripod update, alright? Don't flame me. So, it ended in the middle of hype, but 2 minutes, 3.3. I don't know if World Decimation crit or not, to be honest. I want to say it probably didn't, but I don't know. We'll see later when I look back at the video. Now I guess I can do one without World Decimation. So let's do this. So it's just going to be the same thing, but sans a big old spirit bomb. Then I barrier first to make sure I get it off. Make sure I'm keeping adrenaline up. Flash Step is both a good adrenaline stat keeper and a movement ability, but you have to be careful using it for adrenaline stacks and make sure you're not going to get yourself in a bad position. That's going to make you need to reposition, and you're going to need to reposition and not have it. I was very late on that release because I was talking, missed the barrier, but that's okay. It happens. That's like a real-world scenario. Because you have to remember, this is all assuming I have 100% uptime on the boss, never having to dodge anything, never delaying my abilities at all, and that is very unrealistic of a scenario in this game. You're going to have small windows where you can do damage, which is why this class excels so much, this engraving specifically, because that's the whole identity of it. You see what I mean? You just do no damage outside of it, and then you pop that 6-second window, and you just dump everything like a dump truck. Big old dumpy. We're gonna get one more rotation in for the end of this. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna guess World Decimation did not crit, because I did more damage this time than I did with it. And that's Trixian for you. And that's also Soulfist for you, to be honest. This thing doesn't crit, you're sad. If it crits, you're losing your gourd. Like here, I'll try to fish for a crit, just so you can see the damage it can do. Yeah, 113. Completely unbuff, self-buff only. You get into a raid, you start seeing that hit for 250, 260, 270 with my gear. Absolutely insane. I'm 1510, 23 weapon, 21 armor. Only level 7 damage gems on everything except Pummel, which is 8, and then 10 CDR on release. Using Light of Salvation 18. Nothing crazy. But overall, hopefully that was a bit more of an in-depth look at Soulfist, the rotations, the gearing, everything like that. Yeah, I got nothing else to say, really. I just talked my head off for a solid, assumedly 20-30 minutes. Anyways, hopefully at least one person out of the, like, 20 people that might watch this find it useful. Thank you guys for watching. As always, like if you liked, dislike if you dislike. Comment down below if you have any sort of, maybe, oh, I missed this, I missed that. Tell me why I'm wrong about Energy Blast vs. Shadowbreaker. Love hearing that one. Just anything in general. And remember to subscribe. Going for 500 for the end of the year. See if we can do it. Thank you guys so much for watching, the support. Bye!